this video now as requested from a quite successful model from New York who wanted to know more about fasting. It sounds like something she is about to attempt, possibly after being influenced by my previous fasting videos, which reluctantly necessitated the making of this one, and I'll explain why that is the case shortly. Being a supermodel, she is already very thin, so it would be unwise to attempt an extreme fast like the full 40 days and 40 nights, where I recently discovered firsthand the very serious and devastating effects this can have on one's health. And when I say serious, I mean fatally serious and worse, believe it or not. Which is the reason why I have decided to share with her and anyone else who is interested in fasting my latest nightmarish experience. Fasting is extremely dangerous when it all goes wrong, so never underestimate the dangers, because it can be worse than drug abuse. Now, if you're already a subscriber to my channel, then you may be aware that I recently attempted the full 40 days and 40 nights for the second time in my life. The first time being in 2014, when I recorded this. Because I'm on the 40th night. I can't believe it, I can't believe it. Look at me, I haven't lost as much weight as I thought I would. I haven't lost as much weight as I thought I would. Yeah. It is a lot, it is a lot. As before, I began a video log as part of my new fasting playlist, which some of you may have noticed suddenly stopped abruptly. You may also recollect that I seemed to disappear for 6 months, partway into that fast, and probably questioned if I would ever return. Well, here I am, now ready to conclude this playlist. So what on earth happened during this time? Although feeling quite confident I could go the distance again, I wasn't successful this time around, and was forced to break the fast on day 28. The reason for this wasn't because of what happened to me physically, which I was prepared for and knew I could handle, but mentally, which I hadn't even considered. It messes with your head, man, and you don't learn that until it's too late. I contemplated doing this video on the dangers of fasting for a very long time, but always hesitated until now. So I'd like to thank that model from New York for inspiring me to do this vital video, which I believe everyone who is interested in fasting should watch, as this is one remarkable testimony and lesson we can all certainly learn from. This is what happens when you do it wrong. I had a paranoid mental breakdown, and it was the worst time of my life. Words cannot explain the horror I was going through during this time, and I was flabbergasted at how the mind can play tricks on you like this. It all seemed so real, and persisted for months, triggered mainly by fear, but also sorrow, mourning and depression, which was probably the cause of the fast in the first place, although I didn't realise that at the time. I couldn't go out in public. I couldn't even go and buy my own groceries and had to have them brought to me because of all the voices I was hearing, not realising it was all in my head. And I was even sneaking up on people when they weren't looking to see what they were saying, to see if they were talking about me. That's how bad it was. I kept asking them the same thing over and over again, and every time they reassured me everything was fine, but I still wouldn't believe them. It was so real in my mind that in some cases I could hear people shouting, and to me, I wasn't just thinking this. I could actually hear it. It seemed audible. And now you know why I hesitated for so long to do this video. It was only after fully recovering and discovering that there is a rational explanation for this that I decided to share it with you, so you don't make the same mistakes. So what was the reason for this paranoid delusion? As is the case with many addicts, at the time I didn't realise it was the fast that did all of this to my mind, and I was desperately enduring to see it through, regardless of what people were saying, until finally I yielded at the behest of my beseeching and very worried girlfriend, who was in tears, and also my sister, who could clearly see it was having some psychological effect on me. Shortly after breaking the fast, God slowly began to reveal to me why it all went so terribly wrong. There is a scientific explanation, which I wasn't aware of and never even considered, as most of you probably wouldn't either. So let's go over that now, so we can get a better understanding of this and how you can avoid it. Because I can tell you now, the dangers of fasting are much greater than one would initially think. And what I was going through, in my mind, is a place you really don't want to be. So let's go through it then, shall we? What caused this chemical imbalance in my brain and the mass paranoia I was going through? It was the worst time of my life. Okay, I really don't recommend doing the full 40 days and 40 nights anymore because of this, okay? It was terrible. It was the worst thing you can imagine. And it was a number of things that caused it, okay? I've looked at the list of the symptoms, yeah. It's not just a chemical imbalance from not eating for so long. I hadn't eaten for weeks, okay? So that was already starting this chemical imbalance, but I was going through a very sad time in my life, okay? This was a huge factor, sadness, alright? I lost someone very important to me, and you know, I was just thinking about it all the time. And then the other thing was fear. I'd already started to hear the voices, okay? This says you hear voices in your head down here, look, yeah? But to me, it seemed real, like I was hearing people say it, okay? It seemed audible. But then when I thought about it logically later on, it didn't make sense, because I was still hearing this when I left the country. Okay, I went to Switzerland, and yeah, I could still hear everybody talking about me, you know, the whole world was talking about me, and this is how paranoid I was. And there was my channel, my YouTube channel, that added to the fear. I thought that I'd made some enemies online and they were all attacking me. You know, there was that fear as well. You know, I probably have, but again, it was just severe paranoia. Okay, it was horrible, absolutely horrible. I didn't have insomnia. Sleeping too much, maybe because I was fasting. Yeah, so I slept more. Yeah, maybe. Oh, look at this. Overeating or loss of appetite. Yeah, not eating at all. You see, there's a number of things here, a number of factors that caused it. A feeling of impending doom or danger, yeah. The fear I had. I was afraid. Look at this. This is on the NHS website here. Psychosis. Okay. It looks like I went through this. This is when you begin to hallucinate and hear things, hear voices.
but you can also see things, taste things, smell things, you know. This can all happen as a result of psychosis. So, now it's not the same as psychotic, okay? Psychosis and psychotic are two different things. I think psychosis is more people who are feeling vulnerable, whereas psychotic is, you know, psychos, basically. So, because of everything that was happening to me at the time, it caused this, yeah? I'm fine now, I've fully recovered, you know, I got the brain supplements out as well, and I've just been eating healthily ever since, so I'm fine, yeah. I wish I could say I've made a full recovery, but I don't know. I fear that I may have done some damage, you know. Again, really not a good idea. The first time around it worked. I wasn't doing as much, you know. I was... Yeah, the first time was better. I was still working for some of it, but I wasn't going through so many other things in my life. I moved, okay, during this fast. Alright, that's supposed to be one of the most stressful things you can do. Not to mention the physical aspect of it, you know. So I moved during this extreme fast. I still wasn't eating the whole time, and I left the country. You don't want to be doing stuff like that. Yeah, not a good idea. Anyway, here we are. Hallucinations, hearing voices, delusions, depressed, yeah. None of this, okay. Medicines, no. Well, as I'm doing this video, then I'm going to share this with you. I did go to the doctors, okay. When I got back from Switzerland, it was the first thing I did. My family convinced me to go and talk about it with a doctor. I did, and they were going to have me see a team. Here we are. Mental health team. They were going to have me see a mental health team. Yeah, I didn't get back to them. I just started eating properly and slowly got over it, but yeah, that was a referral, that one there. Wow. Yeah, never had anything like this before. I just could not believe how the mind can play tricks on you like this, you know? It's crazy, man. It's so weird. It seems so real. It just felt so real. Anyway, I'm warning you of this because it's very dangerous. It all felt so real, and anyone that goes down the same route could be in a dire situation unless forewarned, yeah? This is how not to do it. I learnt the hard way. Willing paranoid delusions, look. Now, my paranoid delusion was so great that as soon as I entered a supermarket, for example, I couldn't go shopping, I couldn't shop for food. You know, the fear, because it's a public place, you know, there's a lot of people there. As soon as I walked through the doors, I'd hear it. Okay, this is how bad it was. And once again, it seemed so real, but when I thought about it logically, I thought, no, it doesn't make sense. You know, I've only just walked in. Why would I hear people saying all this stuff about me when I've only just walked through the doors? You know, logically it didn't make sense, but still, you could hear it nonetheless, and it seemed audible. Okay, and so much so that it felt like they were shouting sometimes. You know, I had an incident in Switzerland when I went there. I thought someone was shouting something at me, but it was all in my head. Bizarre, so bizarre. Anyway, I've just been reading a story here of an old woman who went through this as well, and again she lost her husband. She's going through a sad time, living on her own, secluded. No previous case of anything like this, and then all of a sudden she thought her children were out to get her after her inheritance money, all of this, you know. Fearing the worst, basically, fearing the worst, and as a result she put herself in her own little world. Yeah, just like me. My anxiety and fear caused me to create this own little world for myself that I was immersed in and just couldn't get out. I was actually sneaking up on people. Yeah, it's funny actually, quite funny. Like peeking round the corner into a room while someone wasn't looking, and just watching them to see if they were talking about me. That's how bad it was. Yeah, scary, really scary. But when you're living in that much fear, I thought the whole world was out to get me. You don't want to go through anything like that ever. It's horrible. It's the most horrible thing you can imagine. I actually made notes on my phone of a lot of the things I was hearing, but I won't disclose that because of how personal it is. Basically, I thought I was being attacked spiritually, and perhaps there was something more going on, I don't know. I suspected the Illuminati with their witchcraft, Hillsong, whom I've been exposing, Roman Catholics, whom I'm beginning to expose, and even the government, like that Russell Crowe movie. I might watch that again actually, and see if I can learn anything else. Now in that he has visual hallucinations, and these imaginary friends. I guess the greater the mind, the more it can play tricks on you. Like the saying, the harder they come, the harder they fall. Well, apparently the same goes for your mind, and fasting can trigger it. It can turn you into a nut job, so beware. To me, it was spiritual warfare, and I felt like I was fighting demons during this time. However, most likely it was all fear from the pressure of my work. This put one paranoid delusion in my head, and then combined with all the other issues I had at the time, it was a domino effect for all that followed. So there we go. This, I think, is the most important video in this playlist. They don't teach you this in the Bible, but what it does teach is that this type of fasting isn't necessary. We are saved by grace and not works, and we are also taught not to make it too apparent when we fast. However, I'm definitely making an exception in this case for educational purposes and the sake of helping others. Would you want to go through this? It was essential that I shared this testimony with you so that you know how dangerous this is and are aware, if a similar thing happens, that it might just all be in your head. So go easy on yourself. Thanks for watching, and please be careful. God bless.